Stop it! What are you doing? I just hugged her tightly and kissed her. I kissed her harder, then slowly I moved my hand up to her breasts, feeling how it gradually became. My lips still hadn't left hers. She pulled my hand away with the last bit of her sanity, reached behind me and unbuttoned her small shirt. She pushed me away. You're going too far. Stop now. Welcome to our channel. If you love engaging and emotional love stories, then come to our channel. Here we will bring you stories full of surprises, touching and engaging. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any interesting stories. In today's video, we would like to present to you a story called The Maid, narrated by Jane. Please watch. On Saturday afternoon, it rained heavily, making my face dark. It usually rains in the afternoon at this time of year. Every time it rains, the water is always flowing. There is thunder and lightning, and then the wind blows continuously. On the weather forecast program, people often announce that these are very unusual rains. The first rain of the season often makes the weather worse and more dangerous. The heavy rain was like a little water pouring down on the road, making people feel like they are drowning in the storm. The night also fell faster because of that. The rain was accompanied by thunder and lightning and strong winds, causing a widespread power outage. At this time, the alley was dark and flooded. Everything became wet and muddy. My housekeeper lit a candle, served me dinner, then put on her raincoat and prepared to go home. Looking at her like that, a woman in the rain and wind at night, I felt so sorry for her. I told her, "Be careful on the road, this heavy rain is very dangerous. Why don't you wait a bit, see if it stops? Then it's safer to go." I suggested that, but she must be impatient, rushing home early every afternoon. At home, she has a child less than a year old waiting for her. Her husband died in an accident. Now she is a widow, raising a small child alone. Every time she went to work, she had to leave her child at her mother's house early in the morning, and in the afternoon she just wanted to finish work quickly so she could return to her child. I brought the oil lamp to the table to eat, and less than 10 minutes later, I heard a knock on the door. Who was it? Not recognizing the voice, I opened the door and saw her. She had returned, wet from head to toe, shivering. Her bike's front wheel was bent. "What happened?" she said. "The water flooded the dark alley, so I couldn't see the road. I fell right into a manhole. The bike broke. My body was torn to shreds. One shoulder was exposed. Luckily, if I had been swept down the manhole, I wouldn't have known where to go." She quickly went to the back room to change her shirt, but the torn shirt was stuck to her skin. Her arms and shoulders were in so much pain that she struggled for a long time and couldn't take it off. The last shirt she spoke cautiously. "Uncle, please help me. It hurts so much I can't take it off." I couldn't bear to refuse. How could I refuse when you were so injured? I held the candle and walked into the room, which was connected to the kitchen where I was eating. The flickering light of the candle was enough to see, but in my head I kept telling myself, men and women should not be close to each other in the dark. What I feared most was that she was a virtuous woman, married with children. She was also not lucky, so as a man, I could not take advantage of someone else's weakness or disadvantaged situation to make a fuss or seek benefits for myself. Therefore, I decided to bring in a candle to make the room brighter and clearer. But then I realized that this was a fatal mistake. The light of the candle allowed me to clearly see everything exposed under the thin layer of fabric clinging to her body. The soft lines of her body were clearly visible, making me more confused and embarrassed than ever. Since her husband passed away for more than a month, she applied for a job as a maid, and she had worked for me for more than 6 months. But this was the first time I discovered that she was so beautiful. I was as stupid as a drunk person, as if struck by lightning. I pulled her wet shoulder down halfway and stopped, deliberately slowly letting my hand rest on the edge. Those soft and round shoulders. When my breath blew on her ear, I suddenly realized that I was caressing her skin. She shrank back, startled, and turned around. "Hey, you. What are you doing?" This time, the one who made the mistake was her. She was staying still like that, but refused, and even turned around like that. because when she turned around, her full bust was exposed before my eyes. Her white shirt embroidered with red and blue flowers stuck to her body, revealing her firm mounds. It really fit very well. Not too bulky like women who are breastfeeding, but round and beautiful. I stared at that place without blinking. It seemed inviting, like it was provoking people. I reached over and wanted to touch it. I started to do it, pushing her and pressing her against the wall, moving my hands all over her. Sister, I really didn't expect you to be so beautiful. No, this can't be done, she struggled, forcing me to use all my strength as a boy to hold her tight. Now she didn't need to ask me to speak up anymore. I quickly took off that layer of clothing, very boldly. I made the shirt tear again, then I pushed the shoulder pole back up, and everything jumped out. She shouted, "Hey, don't! You're smart! No, no!" She didn't agree, but then when I let go of her hand to bend down, I began to caress. I smelled her scent. It was truly enchanting. She was surprised, used all her remaining strength to push me away, then ran away. I quickly reached out to grab, then grabbed a piece of cloth. It was pushed aside, and a piece of cloth fell to the ground and was torn apart. You're just fluttering like that now, running back and forth on your body? You only have a pair of shoulder poles left, but one of them has slipped off. It can't cover all the other places. You just run out into the street not dressed properly? Because I know you'll realize that. You quickly use both hands to cover it and run out to the living room looking very shaky. When you're only a few steps away from the door, you suddenly stop. Why? Maybe you understand now. You're not exhausted, nor do you not want to run anymore, but because you have nothing on you now. She was now fluttering like that, running back and forth on her body. She now only had a pair of shoulder poles, but one of them had slipped off. It couldn't cover all the other places. She just ran out into the street, not dressed properly, because I knew she would realize that. She quickly used both hands to cover them and ran out of the living room, looking very shaky. When she was only a few steps away from the door, she suddenly stopped. Why? Maybe she understood now. It wasn't because she was exhausted, nor because she didn't want to run anymore. Maybe. She realized the meaninglessness of running away and decided to face reality. She stood still in the dark, her back turned to me, and sobbed. I quietly walked over and hugged her from behind. Her body was shaking violently. She didn't say anything. I reached forward again, removed her hands, and gently loved them. She let out a groan and then sobbed again, but didn't react anymore, letting me do whatever I wanted. The place of her that was loved became even more alluring. I felt like I couldn't take it anymore, about to explode. She didn't react at all now, just letting me do whatever I wanted. Maybe she had begun to accept it. Not hearing any reaction from her, I started to do it. I grabbed her shoulders and turned her around. A bit of yellow light shone on her, making her entire face visible. Her face was still a bit panicked. Her tear-filled eyes opened wide to look at me. Her lips trembled as if she wanted to say something but didn't dare. Up until now, I had always thought that she was an average-looking person, not ugly, but very gentle and kind. Actually, she wasn't beautiful either, but now I discovered that in this world, perhaps no one was more beautiful than her. I began to be infatuated, bent down to kiss her trembling lips. She silently looked up, offering her lips to me. As soon as our lips touched, I saw her shiver. She let out a few hums, then opened her mouth for me to sweep further. Her body was now entangled in my arms, limp as if she had no strength left. I began to be infatuated, passionately enjoying the passionate flavor that people often say a woman with one child has. I became more and more violent, more and more ravenous. You're begging and pleading again, honey. Please be gentle. You have so much milk that it hurts. So now I understand. So that's it. Oh, so what should I do now? Well, now I understand. So every afternoon you rush home like that because it's full of milk inside. It makes you uncomfortable, so you have to go home so that the little guy can eat it. This explains why this place of yours is so round and full, so cute and adorable. I pressed you again, lifted it up, and gently said, so that Lamb could help Quinn, Then, regardless of whether you agreed or not, I only saw a little bit of resistance, but it was a bit weak. Ignoring this big boy in front of me, he was enjoying that sweet milk. At first, you still reacted a little, then gradually you reached out and hugged his head. He suddenly discovered his milk. Women are 10,000 times more delicious than cow's milk. Now it seems like she's starting to crave it. She no longer stops it, but has something that wants to cooperate with it. She seems to be weak and gradually collapses in his hands. When I let her go, milk splashes all over my face. It probably takes 10 minutes to finish both bottles of milk. How wonderful! Your little boy will probably eat faster because he only has one thing to do. He focuses on one thing. While I take a long time to swallow and then jump to this side, then to that side, and the main purpose is to tease. So the task of finishing the milk is delayed. I did all the necessary movements to send a woman to cloud nine. So after I finished both bottles of milk, she was so happy that she almost fainted in my arms. She buried her face in her hands and cried again. Her hands were shaking. Her stomach was touching somewhere. There was no need to ask how she was. Lamb, Lamb, I can't take it anymore. Now she's calling me M again. I pulled her into the bedroom and pressed her down on the bed. She was sitting and lying like that. I was in a hurry. The tiny pieces of cloth that were left were now flying away. She had nothing left on her body. Even though there was a power outage in the room, it was pitch black. But if I needed anything, I could still tell where something was without a single mistake in the dark. I felt the softness. It was as warm as velvet. It really had a warmth that made people want to bury themselves in it forever and not want to come out. Her husband had been gone for more than a year. Perhaps it had been more than a year since she had enjoyed that feeling. So now it came very quickly, and that repression exploded violently. Looking at her, sweat was pouring out. Her hair was messy. Some places were dotted, looking so seductive. It was a rainy night, and the electricity was out. In this small room outside the door was locked. Something really cute was happening in this bedroom. I thought I was lost in paradise. I couldn't stand it anymore. I stood up straight and started to hurry. My body was released very quickly. I was like a fighting buffalo that had found a soft embankment and kept charging at it. Now she keeps making small sounds. I don't know if they are crying or screaming or if they are satisfied. Suddenly, I have a feeling of regret. Regret like this. I wouldn't have wasted the past few months, only now can I enjoy it. I feel so regretful, so now I have to make up for it. She hasn't gotten anything for over a year, so it's been pent up. Now she's like a powder keg. Just a very small spark. Maybe for me, I only used a little bit of force. It's not too much, just a few minutes, and she's already blossomed. Luckily, it's raining very hard right now, so the neighbors around could not hear her voice. Every time it exploded, she cried out. Otherwise, it would be too embarrassing. It was a rainy night that I will remember for the rest of my life. I quietly looked at her face. It was really beautiful. Now I felt it was too beautiful. Her face without makeup was closed. Her eyes were very gentle. Her breath was as fragrant as orchids. Her eyelashes were soft and curled. Her cheeks were a little rosy. God, once they created a kind of love like this, it meant that men would be unlucky. I knew that in the coming months I would have to work hard, work day and night, not knowing how to make up for these quintessential things. If it weren't for the fact that she still had a child, I definitely wouldn't have let her go home tonight. I lay there, lying on the bed, my eyes, my nose, my mouth still lingered with the fragrance. My fingertips still had the feeling of touching somewhere. It was still burning with the feeling when it exploded. All the time, I kept thinking about that woman. I kept letting myself miss her, letting myself crave her like that. And then from that day on, I lost my maid. The day we were together was Saturday morning. The next day was Sunday. She was no longer my maid, but my younger sister. She took care of my food, took care of my sleep, and even took care of my baby. This was a nanny in the literal sense, not a figurative one at all. And from then on, Monday was like Tuesday, Tuesday was like Wednesday, Wednesday was like Thursday. Every day was like that, except for the time I went to work. The rest of the time I was with her, working hard like that all night long, like the kings of the past. People said it was insatiable because I was in my prime, and she was a person in the prime of her youth. Only God could stop her. Then one day, Quinn told me, I'm pregnant. What? Pregnant? Yes. I suddenly turned pale, feeling a bit worried. She comforted me again. What are you worried about? You're about to have a lot of milk for me, don't you like it? I sat there silently at Quinn's words. My mind was spinning. How could getting pregnant be that simple? A thought flashed through my mind. If this was revealed, my life would be completely turned upside down. Are you sure? I asked, with a trembling voice, my eyes examining Quinn. Quinn nodded. Her eyes were gentle, but with a hint of mischief. What are you worried about? I'll keep it a secret, and no one will know. This child will be a secret between you and me. I exhaled, but my heart was still in turmoil. No one knew the secret, but this child was not a shadow. One day it would grow up. One day someone would recognize it. But, Quinn, we can't continue like this forever. Have you thought it through? I tried to calm down. Quinn did not answer immediately. She walked over and leaned down close to my face, whispering, I have thought about it very carefully. I want this child, and I want you forever. Quinn's words were like a small spark falling, burning in my head. The feeling was both scary and attractive, but when I was about to open my mouth to say something, the door suddenly opened. Bang! The door hit the wall, making us both jump. Standing in the doorway was Luna, my neighbor, also my sister's best friend. Her eyes swept over us and stopped on Quinn, her flat stomach still not exposed, but her red face. Her eyes full of secrets were enough to say a lot. Mr. Lamb, I came to help deliver the goods, but what is this? Luna's voice was as cold as ice. I was speechless. Quinn, on the other hand, remained frighteningly calm. She just smiled slightly. Hello, Luna. Is there anything you need help with? Luna looked at us for a long time, her eyes filled with suspicion and curiosity. I don't know what's going on here, but Lamb, I hope you know what you're doing. After saying that, Luna turned and walked away, not forgetting to slam the door behind her. The door just slammed shut. Quinn walked closer to me, gently placed her hand on my shoulder, her eyes full of reassurance. Don't worry, she can't do anything. Only you and I can decide our matter. But I didn't feel reassured at all. The storm in my heart kept swirling. Luna was a nosy person and was close to many people in the neighborhood. If this matter was exposed, I would no longer have a place in this neighborhood. Quinn, I think we need some time to think. You're pregnant. You need to think about yourself and the baby, I said, trying to stay calm. Quinn was silent. Her eyes became gloomy. What do you mean? You want to stop? Want to abandon me? I didn't interrupt, but the hesitation in my voice said it all. I just want you to have more time to think. This child will change everything. Do you understand? Quinn smiled faintly, a smile mixed with bitterness. You're afraid that others will find out, right? You're afraid of losing your reputation, afraid of your life being turned upside down. But what about me? Do you think about me? I've given up everything to have you, and now you want to step back? I bowed my head, unable to say a word. In my heart, the struggle continued. Quinn was right, but the fear was right too. I wasn't ready to face the price. I need time, and maybe you don't either. Quinn finally spoke, her voice tired. I won't force you, but if you're not sure about us, don't try to hold on. Quinn stood up, her eyes flashing with determination. She grabbed her bag and walked out the door, not forgetting to turn back and say, If you truly love me, you'll find me. But if not, don't try. I'll raise the child on my own. The door closed. I sat alone in the dark room, the rain still falling outside. In my head were a series of unanswered questions. Would I have the courage to hold on to Quinn, or would I let her go, letting her walk out of my life forever? Quinn left, taking her unborn child with her into an unfinished story. And I sat there facing the fear and responsibility, wondering if I could overcome it to pursue true happiness. And maybe the answer will never come until I actually take action. Maybe there is no need for an answer right now, because sometimes life gives us no other choice but to keep going, even if the road ahead is dark or full of thorns. Ladies and gentlemen, our story today will stop here. Thank you for taking the time to watch the entire video. Hope that the details and emotions in the story brought you interesting and meaningful moments. If you like this video, don't forget to like, share, and leave a comment below the video. Let me know what you think, and don't forget to hit the subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any future stories. Each of your subscriptions and likes will motivate Jane and the program production team to create more attractive videos. Now, see you again in the next videos. I wish you a great day.